Good Things with BBB helps you be a better business.
To the All Good Things with BBB podcast. This podcast is designed to give you real world information that will help you be a better business. Today, we're talking about cybersecurity with Cameron Shearhod of Heart Technologies, who's just celebrated 20 years there at Heart. He is the Chief Security Officer there and knows all the things about what you need to do to protect your business today from all of the threats of cybersecurity. So thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So how did you get into the world of technology?
I think I came to it early on, the internet wasn't really a thing yet, at least not publicly. But, I always thought I was going to be a mechanic, and my mom really didn't want me to be a mechanic. And she bribed me, honestly. She bribed me with a computer. I'll buy you a computer if you go to Purdue. And I said, okay. And I guess the rest is history.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You just fell in love with
I did.
figuring it out.
Just the minutia that, can I eke out one more little kilobyte of RAM somewhere? And yeah, so it was a challenge back then, right? It was the challenge of it and take it apart, put it back together over and over and over again.
And now you're taking apart the world of AI and cybersecurity and trying to put in place
barriers. I'm trying to at least put it in context and try and help others understand it as well. So.
That's why we need you here today, because it is super complex. And when businesses they're just trying to do the thing that they do, right?
Absolutely.
And they're not trying to figure out how to stop all of the bots from getting in and taking over their business. So let's dive in. What is the difference between cybersecurity and information security?
Cybersecurity is really a subset of information security, the things that are digital in our lives, right? So the data that we store, transmit, and use every day, cybersecurity. And then information security is kind of the overarching all things, digital or not digital. As a security officer at a company, right? Even our physical security, so doors, cameras, and the like. So yeah, it's a subset, but it's growing all the time and almost becomes its own thing, really.
Well, Heart has been around for nearly 30 years, and you guys not only do cybersecurity stuff, but also physical security. Let's run through the gamut of all the services that Heart offers today.
Sure, absolutely. So Lance would want me to point out that it's over 30 years.
Oh.
But so we do structured cabling, telephony, lifecycle IT, so cradle to grave, and all things kind of in between those things. If it's network related, if it attaches to the wall or connects to the wireless, we're going to take care of that.
And also, we can't forget our phone guys.
Yeah,
we love our phone guys. We do have the best phone guys in house. I can vouch for that. But so if you're thinking about phone systems for your business, voicemail, and managing all of that, that's part of it too, as well as cabling. What else are we forgetting?
We have great senior living group, that take care of assisted living and senior living facilities, and they're their own little department, and they kick butt all the time.
Which is a growing industry and certainly needs help.
Absolutely, right? I mean, we're living longer and longer, so absolutely.
Heart over 30 years in business, offering a gamut of technology services. Going into computer, you said all things networking, certainly up your alley. Are there certain types of computers that are less vulnerable to viruses?
That used to be the case. We used to look at the Mac or even Linux as being less susceptible to malware, but ultimately, not really the case anymore. Right? The attackers go where the people are at.
What is the difference between malware, ransomware, and a virus?
The virus and ransomware are subsets of malware. So malware is using a software either by downloading it or getting it installed on a machine, or today misusing the software that's already on the machine, right? They call that living off the land, and using that in a way that it was not intended. Ransom is really about you taking those tools, that malware, and using it to hijack your system, often locking up your data so that you can't have access to it until you pay a ransom. They've also taken to exfiltrating or stealing the data so that they can often ransom you twice, right? First to unlock it and get back to working, and then the second time to make sure that they don't release it, sell it, something. And so, yeah, you often get ransomed twice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's nice. It's
So
big
nice
business.
they do it twice.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, in your experience, Cameron, that second time, do they actually return it without compromising the data?
I would say it really does depend. Interestingly enough, they consider this a business. If people regularly didn't get the ransom or didn't get their data back, I think that people would be less likely to pay. And people really are pretty likely to pay today. I wish that weren't the case, but businesses have to run. Insurance has really made that work, right, for our customers. But we're seeing up to 40% of insurance claims are being denied today because customers think they're prepared, but they often don't know what they promised when they sign that cyber insurance form. So,
do you mean like when they don't know what they've promised, like they don't understand what protections they have, or
correct? So it's really based off of policy, and I spend a lot of my days today talking about risk and liability, and a lot of that is built off of the policies that the customers have or don't have. So get a cyber insurance, and the cyber insurance says, hey, do you have MFA enabled, right? So multi-factor authentication. And naturally you want to say yes. I know, I have to get my phone out and get that 6-digit code and punch it in. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But I have that. Okay. Do you have it enabled by policy? Do you have it enabled so that it can't be turned off? Unless you can prove that to an insurance company, then you might not have MFA enabled in their eyes. So things like that. So it's ultimately it's the proof. And more insurance companies are demanding that proof that you're doing what you said you were going to do when you signed that policy and said, I am doing MFA, or I have a next gen antivirus endpoint detection response. I have those things.
When you say they're looking for proof, that's once a claim's been filed.
That's correct.
And so if everything's been compromised and locked up at that point, how likely is someone going to be able to substantiate they have or don't have those things working if you can't even get in?
It's pretty rare. It is pretty rare. And ultimately what we encourage is a written information security plan.
So getting ahead of it.
Have a book, have something you can turn to, right? It says, this is my incident response plan, and here are my policies. Here are my attestations from my employees who are reading these policies and saying, yes, I'm going to follow them. And then ultimately, the evidence that says, I've got a password policy. Here's my procedure for the policy, and here is some evidence of that, right? Screenshots or other types of evidence.
That's what you're specializing in right now, is kind of meeting with the business and running through what they have and they don't have and helping them understand that.
That's correct. A lot of customers, they don't know, and that's okay. They're not cybersecurity experts. I would rather they focus on running their business rather than trying to focus on, making sure that they're secure. But I do encourage everyone to, reach out to your IT provider and ask them about, do you offer third-party penetration tests or audits? Can you help me with this? It doesn't have to be hard, but I hope it is.
What questions should somebody be asking? I mean, if you don't know anything about this, how would you know if your current IT provider is doing these things if you don't even know what to ask? So what questions should they ask?
That's why we encourage the third-party pen test. Really is the big deal, right? So I don't want to check my own work, right? I mean, I can write a paper and read it 100 times. I hand it to my wife, and it will come back with all kinds of scribbles, like this. I don't even know what this means. You couldn't, a normal human wouldn't be able to read this, let alone, punctuation and whatever else. Ultimately, that third party is there to really check the work we're doing. So that's an important piece of it, is having someone outside of your organization who can review that for you. And that's where it starts. Mm-hmm. And then, you always get that big scary report after that. So the scary report and lots of red.
I mean, everything is vulnerable, right?
Everything is vulnerable, or isn't until it is, right? So there are no vulnerabilities until one is found, and it's perfect until it isn't. So, yeah.
And it's probably not a once and done thing. As technology evolves and as these predators evolve, processes. How often should somebody review this plan?
So we encourage quarterly. I will say a lot of insurance companies or even some credit card companies that do like PCI compliance, that kind of stuff, they would like it at least annually. But
Okay.
I like a quarterly. It helps me get in front of a customer and talk to them about what's going on. What are we seeing in the industry? How are we doing from the last time we did this scan? Showing progress throughout the year. And as the attackers pivot, we want to be able to pivot with them.
Yeah. You're talking about quarterly and my eyes went up like, oh my gosh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So how do you balance all of this, security and all of these measures we can put in place with access and easiness, user friendly?
That is a huge balancing act. And it's one I struggle with every day. It's easy to make something perfectly secure because I can bury it in concrete and throw it in the river. It's also the least usable. It is a balancing act for me. Sometimes I get it right and sometimes I overstep, and we pivot and figure out what works and what doesn't. There's kind of a term in our industry, right, that security is a team sport. And I really do like that because it takes all of us at heart, in any business, really. Let's all be a part of the solution, right? It's easy to complain about the security tools and yeah, they slow me down, but let's talk about what that tool is doing. Why are we using it? And why is it so effective? And if it isn't effective, let's pitch it and try the next thing. And so I always like that security is a team sport.
Yeah. You guys need jerseys.
Yeah.
Ball caps or something.
I like that. We'll talk to Lance.
He'll love that idea. So obviously working from home is a regular part of life in
Absolutely.
2025.
Big part of it now.
What should employers be talking about with their employees as far as measures they need to be taking at home to keep things secure?
We have had a huge shift in mindset, both of workers and of the IT people supporting them. And we are really doing a better job today than we've ever done with helping remote work. So ultimately, the security tools that are in place today in most organizations can easily follow somebody home. So we put those security tools on at the workstation level. We provide them with, a VPN, or even more recently today, we kind of do the zero trust network access, which is the new VPN. Send that ZTNA home with them, and the user is connected and protected, much like they are behind the walls. We've extended our perimeters out to everyone's perimeter instead of just a firewall at the edge.
If we're putting everything in place as the employer for all the devices that they're using, we can feel confident they're going home and doing okay.
I never worry less, but I hope everyone else is. So.
Okay. All right. Cameron does lots of yoga.
It's a lot of sitting on the back deck staring at the lake.
Okay. Yeah. I love it. That's nice that you're worrying for us and we don't have to. Is there anything we should or should not be doing at home?
Have a home office. That's a nice, it's a place to sit down. It's a place when you walk away from there, you get to kind of say, okay, that was work and this is home life. That's great. Remember that your work computer is not your personal computer, right? So use work computer for work stuff and have a home PC, right? So your PC at home is different than your home PC. Home PC is the one where the kids go and they can play, Roblox and Fortnite and whatever else. Work PC is for work stuff. Mm-hmm. If you try to remember that, and that extends not just at home, but the coffee shop, the airport, wherever you're at. If you're working on vacation, hopefully you're not, but we know most people do now.
Yeah.
So the nice part is have those same protections follow you, and you'll be all right.
Is there anything that you would recommend for the guy whose office is his truck, where everything is right there on the phone or a tablet, going into the home, having them sign things? What would your advice?
I mean, the big one for that remote worker, backups. It's the same thing I would tell any business today is your backups are kind of your last line of defense, and back up that data.
The recommendations of backups that you use?
There are tons of them, and I would be remiss if I picked out one or the other, but ultimately work with your provider. they're going to have their favorites.
What if your provider's just your cell phone company?
If you're on iPhone, use iCloud, put your stuff there. It's not so that's not a backup, but it is a secure place to store it in the event that something happens to the phone itself.
Okay.
So that doesn't prevent things that could attack that, right? So MFA, right? We talked about that earlier. Multi-factor authentication, one of the best things we can do to protect our account from compromise. So have that MFA enabled. Yeah, it slows you down. It slows you down for a second or 5 seconds, right? But it is very effective, especially when, as humans, we're not great password generators, right? We don't make up good passwords. We suck at it, really. So ultimately, that MFA helps when that password is compromised. Or, hey, I wonder if they're using the same password that they're using for their email that they are for their bank. And yeah, that happens a lot. So MFA, wherever you can, enable MFA or use passkeys. Yeah, that's going to be a huge
I've seen
piece.
that a lot now is passkeys.
Passkeys are kind of the new hotness in MFA, or even singular sign-on. Even Amazon, Google, Microsoft's embraced it and even made it so you can delete your password from your Outlook account. So that's huge. Passkeys are a great solution to the password problem.
So if you're a business that offers commerce on your website, is that something they could work with Hart to enable the passkey situation for their account holders?
We can help them understand passkeys. We don't really do the implementation, at least certainly not at a website or a e-commerce level.
Okay.
But we do have people that we work with and vendors in the area who certainly can help support that. But yeah, not really in our wheelhouse, but I would say if you want to know more about what passkeys are or how you can implement them in your personal or work life, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Is that something you're seeing with the insurance part of it? Does that help reduce liability on the business if they have something like passkeys instead of storing?
The multi-factor for sure, and how the multi-factor is done. We use a tool that allows for the 6 digits. You can use passkeys. You can do push to your phone. It's one of my favorites. I really like I call it the closed loop system, right? So ultimately you are trying to log into something, you get a push notification on your phone and you can approve it. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're driving down the road and you get a pop-up and says, hey, you're trying to log into Office 365, well, probably not. You hit deny, right? That's that closed loop. Oh, I just had to hit deny here. Let me call my IT support and let them know something is not passing the sniff test here.
Yeah.
Right. So that we can figure out what happened. It could be benign and that'd be great. But ultimately, it's better to know and better to check. So, yeah.
With that in mind, can you talk about those cybersecurity tests that I know Hart does, where you will put something out there as a way to train employees?
Sure. Phishing tests are really common. And again, in the regulatory world and also in insurance, they want to know that you're getting those training tests. So ultimately it's a scheduled test. We try not to tell people when it's coming because then they expect it. But ultimately, right, we set up for a phishing test, and it's really just it's a front of mind thing, right? Hopefully, they notice it and they report it, and then they get a nice kudos, right? A pat on the back. And we get the confirmation that, hey, they're recognizing that.
You're doing it. They did it.
We can update. Yep. And then we also do the training that goes along with that. And that is periodic. Try to do that once or twice a month. We'll send out some training materials. Just, again, it's a front of mind. Mm-hmm. We have one where we send out just a weekly newsletter. Really, it just goes out. And again, front of mind. If I send it out on Monday and somebody even sees the title, maybe they don't read it, but they see the title, they're going to think about that a little bit more, right? It's reinforcement.
Do you have any stories about where a business has clicked on a link in a phishing email? What happened?
Sure. So, great example, customer click on a link in an email without thinking about it, right? I mean, we are humans. We make mistakes, right? And with AI, some of these phishing things, we don't look for the spelling errors and the poor grammar anymore because it's not there, right? We just ultimately took over the company through some poor IT management from the on-site IT person. They had stored all the passwords for all the users in which you should never know all of your users' passwords. Don't do that. But they had stored it in an insecure
Excel
manner.
sheet.
No, it was actually worse than that. It was accessible from, you could query the directory server.
Oh, good.
And it was
Shared
stored
drive.
in the description, which the description is not encrypted or protected in any way.
Everyone's password.xls.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow.
Ultimately, they then wound up with the keys to the kingdom with a full compromise, and we had to do a full rebuild for that customer from the ground up.
So I was going to say, when maybe they're not your client and this happens and they come to you, is there a possibility of undoing it?
So there are options for that, and we had a school in the area that was hit with a ransom, and we were engaging. And it turns out that the FBI had been keeping an eye on this particular ransom group and had the decryption keys, and were able to get that school back up and running within many hours, but hours instead of weeks or days. So that was luck, really.
Luck,
I mean,
yeah.
ultimately, that was just a lucky one. But yeah, they were hit with a ransom that the FBI was able to provide that to them. As certain ransoms get older, sometimes weaknesses are found. Sometimes the FBI and NSA can find those and kind of help share those. But
do you report it? Like when your group works with a company that's been compromised, is there somewhere you share that information?
We share it within our community, really, and we can report it to the authorities. It really depends on what the ransom is, what the situation is. Do they fall under some sort of regulatory compliance like HIPAA for medical, right? So, but really, it's up to the customer to make that determination. We don't want to make those for them. We'll report it when it makes sense, when it's prudent. Mm-hmm. But other than that, again, we kind of leave that to the customer.
You mentioned HIPAA, which made me think of hospitals. Has it been your experience that, big fish like hospitals are targeted more than, Joe Schmo in his pickup truck?
Everyone wants to think that. And yes, some ransom groups will target the whales, but most of them feed themselves with fish. And, here in Central Illinois, we have some great whales. There's a lot of fish. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, we're dealing with it's a spray attack, right? Emails are basically free to send. So send them to OSF, send them to Carl, but send them to Hart, right? Send them to the BBB, send them and hope somebody clicks on it by accident, and boom, they're in. $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 at a time is still great to somebody who paid almost nothing to do their campaign, mm-hmm. right? Yeah, they're going to get to change healthcare once in a while and wind up with, many millions of dollars, but those are pretty rare.
Because they have all the fortresses in place.
They do. And, hopefully they get that stopped, Change Healthcare being the example where, they caught it late and it did cost them millions, but mm-hmm. ultimately through a mistake that a customer made and not having MFA, by the mm-hmm. way. So absolutely.
What else do you wish businesses knew or understood about the importance of cybersecurity?
Well, I think we just hit on it. A lot of them think they're too small. You're not, right? It's opportunistic. They're not in it alone, right? Every business, whether they're small and just starting out, right? I'd really love for them to think about building security in to whatever they're doing, into their processes, instead of trying to bolt it on later. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So build it in, don't bolt it on. That'd be a great one, mm-hmm. right? Like as we talked about earlier, also, test the waters, right? Do that tabletop exercise, right? Run through it. Can I recover? I have backups. Have you tested them? No. Then you don't have a backup, right? You think you have a backup, and we hope you have a backup, but you don't know you have a backup. Mm-hmm. Cloud syncing is not a backup. That's a big one, right? People, I'm synchronized to OneDrive or Dropbox or Google Drive. That's not a backup. It's a great place to store stuff. And, if you've got the right relationship with those people, right? So if you're Google Workspace or Microsoft, get your business associate agreement with them so that you have, you two are working together through that and have that agreement in place. That's an important part, especially if you fall under any kind of compliance, again, like HIPAA.
So if you have a website that you're collecting information on, even if it's hey, I'm interested in your services, you're responsible for protecting that data.
How's it encrypted? How's it encrypted in transit? How's it encrypted at rest? Absolutely. And there are great tools out there, great services. The worst thing you do is live with your head in the sand and just hope doesn't cover us.
Yeah.
And hope certainly doesn't mean your insurance company wants to pay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And there is a special rider for that. It's not included in just general liability or any kind of general business insurance. So you can always check out our podcast with Fortner Insurance on that. Yes. If you've got questions on a special rider that will cover you in situations like these, but it sounds like getting ahead of the situation, building it in, not bolting it on, and getting a thorough review of what your company does, how it operates, and how we can protect it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you watching this. I hope you learned something about cybersecurity today with Cameron Shearhod of Hart Technologies, who's been in business for over 30 years in Central Illinois. Fantastic phone guys, 2 of them very handsome, I might add. We hope you learned something from this podcast that will help you be a better business. Our podcast is produced by Stephanie Blue, and the fantastic jingle that you're going to hear is produced in-house by Andrew Smith. And I'm your host, Jessica Tharp, and thanks for watching.
All good things with BBB helps you be a better business.